Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. Tonight, it's the debate for the Democratic primary in the 13th Council District that includes the Bronx neighborhoods of Throgs Neck, Pelham Parkway, Morris Park, Pelham Bay, Schuylerville Country Club, Locust Point, Westchester Square, as well as parts of Allerton and Van Nest. Tonight's program is presented in partnership with the League of Women Voters of the City of New York, which is a nonpartisan political organization that advocates for informed and active participation in government and works to increase understanding of major public policy issues. Also, thanks to our media co-sponsors, the Bronx Times and Schneppes Media. Primary day is Tuesday, June 24th. The early voting period is Saturday, June 14th through Sunday, June 22nd. For more information, visit vote.nyc. Now, let's meet the candidates. We will start off with Shirley Aldebol. I want to make sure to pronounce it right. Nice to see you, Shirley. She's the vice president at 32BJ SEIU. And thank you so much for joining us. Retired Army officer is John Perez. Nice to see you, Mr. Perez. The vice chair of Working Families is David Diaz. Nice to see you, Mr. Diaz. Former vice chair of the Bronx Democratic Party. We thank Joel Rivera for joining us. And we will say good evening to Theona Reets-Dupont. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of you for being here. And on the ballot also, we should mention Iraqi war veteran and a retired Army Major Jacqueline Torres. She declined to participate in tonight's program. Candidates in tonight's debate, I will direct the question to one candidate. That candidate will have 90 seconds to respond, and then each candidate will also have 90 seconds to respond. The moderator, that's me, reserves the right to ask follow-up questions and also to allow for rebuttals and dialogue. Please note that after the initial answers from each candidate, no statement can be longer than 30 seconds. Also, please note there will be no opening statements, but at the end of each program, each candidate will have 1 minute to offer a concluding comment. So candidates, we're all ready to get started. And by prior agreement, the first question will go to you, Ms. Aldebol. Thank you for joining us. Candidates, as you know, this is the only council seat occupied by a Republican. So the winner of this Democratic primary has another hurdle to climb in November. Which of you is best qualified to defeat the incumbent in the general election and why? Ms. Aldebol?
Well, I believe that I'm the best qualified to defeat the Republican incumbent because I have, a vast experience organizing, building coalitions. I've gotten endorsements from many labor unions and other democratic organizations. I have been on the ground talking to voters, talking to Democratic voters for months now and creating excitement about this race, about getting involved in elections. And I think that we can turn this around and make people understand that, not voting has consequences. And we have an incumbent Republican now who is not bringing the necessary resources to our district that we desperately need. And I have been an advocate for working families my entire life, have negotiated thousands of contracts, have stood toe-to-toe with landlords, employers, developers to make sure that they create good jobs, that they invest in the community, that they create affordable housing for our seniors, for our veterans, and for that's good for the entire community.
Thank you very much. The same question for you, Mr. Perez.
Quite frankly, Gary, I'm the only qualified candidate to go up against Christy Maramato in the 13th Council District. It is the last stronghold of our veteran community, and if we do not protect at least that much, we're going to lose that community. I know the area, I know the district. I've been working hard in the district for the last 7 years. I've been chipping away, not having to have anybody endorse me in doing it, but to earn the trust and credibility of the people to know that I am there to represent them in no special interest. So there's a lot of respect that comes with that, because now you are indebted to the community and not the people that support you financially or otherwise.
Thank you very much. Mr. Diaz, you're up.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you, Gary, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. But I didn't think that I was going to disagree with one of my opponents so quickly out the gate, but I have to disagree that he is the best candidate to run for this seat. I have been in this district for 51 years of my life. I have grown up in Throgs Neck. I have owned a home in Country Club. I live now in City Island. And for the last almost 2 decades, I have been rolling my sleeve up, boots on the ground, and working directly in this district and helping our community, whether it be with climate issues or tackling food insecurity. And yes, we do have a Republican that is sitting in this seat now. So it is going to take a special person who knows and understands the community, that has to be from this community to understand the uniqueness of each of these different parts of our district. And that guy is certainly me.
Thank you very much. And to you, Mr. Rivera.
I think it's pretty obvious that I'm the best candidate to beat Christie. And why do I say that? I'm working with all the different parties. The demographics in that area haven't changed. The demographics was Democrat when we lost the seat. The problem is that the jargon that was being spoken isn't what the community wanted. So our previous Democratic representative made a major mistake not being against some of these shelters, supporting upzoning, and being in alliance with the unions and the parties and other things. I'm supported and endorsed by the community, which matters most. And we need a moderate Democrat to take back that seat. And that's me. Not to mention that I've run on other party lines. I'm friends with the Republican Party, the Conservative Party. I actually, in 2009, in a special election, ran as a conservative. In 2015, ran as a Republican. So I'm not viewed as this leftist Democratic candidate. I'm looked at someone that's willing to work with all the parties, work with everybody, and that's in line with what the community wants. A lot of these candidates and a lot of people are trying to make the 13th like the rest of the Bronx, when they should be trying to make the Bronx replicate what's in the 13th. We like our way of life. We like our quality of life. We don't need to change. The rest of the Bronx needs to look at the 13th and try to replicate what we're doing in the 13th.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reets-Dupont.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm the only candidate here with firsthand experience. I'm the only candidate here that understands the city budget and have worked in the council for years. Not only have I worked in the council, I've also been a member of our largest American legislative union. I was part of the bargaining committee that negotiated the first contract that represent legislative staff at the councilmatic aides. There is no one on this stage better than I to represent our community, because I understand what it needs. I know what it is to put in a budget request. I know what it is, a legislative request. I know how to write a policy, and I know how to negotiate at the council level.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Perez. It's been suggested all along the way. Let's talk about that Bruckner rezoning. If you were in the city council when the Bruckner rezoning came up for a vote, would you have supported it? Also, as was raised here, many analysts believe that the previous council member's support for the project cost her the election. If you don't agree with that sort of rezoning in the 13th CD, then how do you build the housing, in particular the affordable housing that is desperately needed not only in the 13th but all over the city? We'll start with you, Mr. Perez.
The Bruckner upzoning was very unique in that there was so many different components to it, and nobody ever gave a straight answer of what exactly it was that they wanted to do. The supermarket wanted to build higher than what the rest of the neighborhood looked like. And people said, we're okay with you building, just bring it down lower. And that was the consensus throughout the district. But when that didn't happen and they said, well, we're going to use commercial space on the bottom, allowing us to go a little bit higher, then that became a problem because that now set a standard for everything that was going to come into the district. And that's when it became an issue. The previous council member that was there stood in front various times and said that she opposed that development. And on the day that it came to vote, she completely turned it around. But there were other incidents throughout the district and throughout her campaign that were very inconsistent with her, that was very noticeable. And this community is a little bit unique in that they communicate with each other. They have very good active community organizations. They talk, they ask the right questions, and they bond together to make sure that they protect the 13th council district the way it is, or at least they have an input on what it should look like.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diaz.
Yep. So I'm in finance, and I know that we are in a crisis right now when it comes to rents. And the only way that you are able to address that, it's economics 101, right? It's a supply and demand issue. If you don't have the supply and you have high demand, you're going to have high prices, right? So we need to be able to understand that. And I know that the community at large was mainly against the upzoning project. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they weren't being told the truth. They weren't being told, all the time what exactly what that looks like. And that unfortunately comes to, failed leadership, right? So you have to be able to bring people to the table, find out what is actually looking to be done, right? Negotiate with the developers, making sure that they're held accountable to exactly what they are proposing, and make sure that it's not going to affect the real character of the neighborhood, right? And again, yes, there's heights. There are things that should have been taken into consideration that probably weren't, and that is a failed leadership, and that's certainly what I would like to certainly change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera.
We never talk about the elephant in the room, Gary. They throw around these catchphrases, affordable housing, under the guise of affordable housing. Have you ever looked at these affordable housing developments that come in? A studio's $3,000 or $2,800. So I'm for real affordable housing, not affordable housing as a catchphrase that politicians like to throw around. I'm not a career politician. I'm a community activist, entrepreneur, businessman. And we need to make programs that make sense. So if we're gonna do affordable housing, we gotta make sure it's not a land grab. I'm a real estate developer also, and a lot of these developers come in, and I'm telling all our secrets, and they use all these catchphrases, affordable housing, and then the politicians repeat it, when it's not even affordable. And they wanna change the dynamic of a community. So if we're gonna build housing, let's make sure that it's really affordable. Let's think of joint projects. Let's look at these development projects that wanna come in. But I'm against upzoning, and I'm against any development that doesn't have a specific benefit to all the associations, like the Morris Park Association, the Van Ness Association, the Pelham Parkway Association. They wanna come in, they gotta take care of the community first and build units that are really affordable.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reets-Dupont.
Yes. So one of the issue with the upzoning is the structure, right? The buildings they want to build is too high for the characteristic of our community. And what we need housing, that's a fact. That's a need that our community have. But it has to be affordable, as it's been said, for our community. And we need to look at what our community is earning, our families, how are they supported through their work environment, and whether or not they can afford what they want to bring into our community and call it affordable housing. So we really need true affordable housing, but we do need affordable housing, and we need those buildings to be representative of what we already have.
Thank you, Ms. Aldebol.
Yes, I support.
John, you wanted to add something? So we'll do that after she's
done,
finished.
then we can start
And I was
doing
going to
the
say, if anybody
rebuttals.
wants to say anything, just simply raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. So
Yes,
go ahead.
I supported the upzoning. My support for the upzoning was because it was going to create hundreds of good union jobs, one. Two, housing for veterans, housing for seniors, much needed housing for seniors, housing for working families like, our first responders, teachers, nurses, public servants, even janitors who clean our schools can't afford to live, in the district where they work. It's important that we have more affordable housing. As David said, the supply of housing is low and the demand is high. So it's raising rents, it's raising the price of housing, and so people can no longer afford to live in our communities. I raised my son in our community and bought a home there when it was still affordable for someone with a middle class income to buy a home. That's not the case anymore. So yes, I support upzoning. We need housing, but we also have to invest in the community surrounding that housing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perez, you have 30 sequends, then we'll get to you, Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, the upzoning issue was 2 years ago. That already passed. It's already being, there's development going up all over the place. There's nothing that we can do about that now, but we can protect whatever is coming in. And like so many community-based organizations in the district get involved, they know what's happening before an elected official. But here, I'm sitting up here, and I've not seen any of these people in the last 4 years fighting for any development, against any development, or against even the Just Homes project.
Thank you.
At all.
Mr. Rivera and then Mr. Diaz.
I just want to address what Shirley said. It really bothers me when people say, first of all, she makes, and it's public information, I'm not saying anything, as a union rep, almost $250,000, $180,000 or whatever it was. And she bought properties from the surrogate court and sold them at a profit, and they generated money. Now, that's something to be proud of. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have a problem when people try to claim, I'm a hardworking, struggling. That's just not the reality. We have to be truthful and own. If you're a good real estate person and make good deals and make money and have a good job, that's what afforded you to live in the area and buy a home.
I'm sure you have something to say about that.
Yeah, that is categorically untrue. I retired from my job and I'm living on a pension. I raised my son as a single parent on a decent income. I was the executive vice president of a 185,000 member union. Had I taken my skills and my knowledge to the corporate world, I probably would have been earning $1 million. That is not what I was earning. I was earning a decent middle class income. Number one. Number two, I don't know where you got this information that I bought property. I bought my home in ThrogsNet 12 years ago, where I've raised my family. My family's been here in the district for 45 years. And I have roots in the district.
Thank you. Mr. Diaz, you'll get the final word on this.
Okay, yeah. I have to address John because I know he loves to say about not being there, but being at a protest and complaining on social media is not being a part of the solution. It's a part of the problem. So what we really need to do is bring people together and in the community, have real solutions. We need housing. We have to figure out ways we do this. And again, we have to bring the entire community in to talk about it, to see what we are all comfortable with, so we have the best solution for that community. And that's how we're going to move forward. It's not, so.
Thank you very much. You actually get the next question, Mr. Diaz. You had mentioned where you have lived and that you're from City Island. Much of District 13 experiences chronic flooding, especially during storms, and certainly people on City Island know all about that. Yet the funding to develop preventative infrastructure is lagging. How can shoreline communities and the communities in the 13th CD be better protected from the effects of climate change?
That's absolutely. And that's really what a lot of the work that I've been doing over the last 2 decades. And I was a homeowner during Sandy in Country Club. And I was also part of the community board 10 at that time. And I saw, first, I've heard an experience of what the damage that storm created, right? And the flooding that took place, and the flooding that continues to take place. And one of the things that I was able to do with work with other people within the community was we are now, for the first time, listed by the city as a community at risk. And that includes City Island, that includes some of the other shorelines, including Edgewater, which we weren't included in that at all. So we were not going to be a part of any budget talks or any funding that came out of any climate community fund. So we are now a part of that. It's because of the work that I have done in that community.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera.
I think, again, I go back to, right, we spend a lot of money and talk a lot about development, and we need to make sure that when people come in, they're investing in the community, things that affect community residents. And I think we also need to look at the capital money. I don't think, the problem with the city a lot is we wait for a disaster and then respond to the disaster instead of preparing to make sure that the disaster doesn't happen. So we need to allocate funding, speak with people that are experts in this area, and create preventative measures now. Not wait till there's a Sandy, not wait till our houses are flooding. The other thing nobody talks about is water insurance in those areas. A lot of times you can't even get insurance, and the price that you have to pay for insurance is astronomical. It's almost the price of your mortgage. So we need to address that too, and make sure that insurance companies aren't being vultures on our homeowners and charging rates or not even willing to insure homes, and that if something happens, that the homeowners get paid their money to make sure that they could take care of their house after something happens. But most importantly, let's be preemptive and let's prepare for something before it happens.
Thank you very much. And,
Yes,
Ms.
so
Reets-Dupont.
I think we would need to do, and this might have been done already, but a feasibility study to see how we can best address the problem that those communities are facing. And also, as it was mentioned, just making sure homeowners are able to afford, flooding insurance, because it can be very skyrocketed. One of the other things to look at as well is, just the cost of, when you live in communities like that and the flooding occurs, what can be done to protect the home, the foundation of the home? Because a lot of times when it's flooded, the foundation of the home gets damaged, and what can be done to help sustain those homes?
Thank you. Ms. Aldebol?
Yeah, I agree with David, and we have to source that that money. Now that we are considered at risk, we have to make sure that that money comes into the district so that we can shore up our shoreline, so that drainage systems. Throgs Neck gets flooded all the time. The drainage systems, quite frankly, suck because, they can't, a lot of water comes in and the drainage systems are not working and people are getting flooded. I had 2.5 feet of water in my house the last big storm. Everybody on my block was flooded. And the insurance is not gonna replace your valued items, photographs of your family. That's not gonna do it. I agree we have to reduce insurance costs, but we have to first prevent those things from happening so that we don't have to pay astronomical insurance rates and protect our homes.
Thank you very much. And you, Mr. Perez?
Preventing and minimizing the flood. We do live in a flood zone. We already know this. We know this is common knowledge, what we do about it. If you're going to repair the sewer system that drains the water back into the water basin, then it has to be above the water line, because if it's below the water line, it's just going to fight against itself, and it's just going to go right back into City Island. It's going to go back into Country Club. So one of the issues, the Army Corps of Engineers already had done a survey and made a recommendation. A very good recommendation. These were the same people that made the recommendations in Louisiana when the levees broke down there. They came and they said, this is what you need to do. But our city and state and federal government refused to want to pay the money to get it done. That's all it is. All of this stuff, all of these problems, all of the problems that we're facing in the district or throughout the Bronx and throughout New York City is about nickel and dimes. It's about who's going to pay for it and how we're going to make a profit off of it before we actually do the work. That's the bottom line. There's no other explanation that I can give you other than that. The survey has already been done. The recommendations have already been done. Let's get the money. Let's fight for the money and get it done.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rivera, you get the next question. This is a relatively simple question. It's been asked by everybody in the district. Bally's has stepped in with funding to keep Preston High School open. They're providing other community supports that are not insignificant. But do you favor a Bally's proposal of a casino at Ferry Park?
I do not currently favor a Bally's casino. A lot of the people on this stage and even the incumbent have flip-flopped back and forth or said they're not sure. The community is very clear. We do not want a Bally's casino in our area. Would I be open to discussion if the community changed their mind and the community organizations? Yes, but I spoke at the first forum and it was a circus. They had these fake statistics that the community supported it. And when we asked, I went to the audience and said, who supports this? Everybody was booing. I said, who's against this? Everybody was cheering. Then all of a sudden, people started changing their answers. I've been very clear that I'm against the project in its current form. If we could figure out a way that the community changes their mind and wants to support it, and all these hundreds of millions of dollars they say they're gonna give us can actually get to the community, then maybe we can have that discussion. But in my previous experience, when we built the Yankee Stadium, they promised you the world, all these union jobs. It's all a lie. And if the jobs do come in, they're from people that are from Staten Island and other places, not even Bronx residents. Now, if they're gonna tell me they're gonna guarantee union wage jobs for residents priority and Bronx residents, and we can figure out a way that the community sees a strong community benefits package in writing, maybe I'll consider it. But the community has spoken. We don't want this. There's nothing to talk about.
You know, I want to just interject something, and we'll go real quick, right down the road, give you 30 seconds to talk about it. Mr. Rivera raised up something that's very interesting and very particular to the 13th. We can talk about the Just Home proposal, but when
I'm against that too.
We'll talk about that. But when these proposals come up, particularly in the 13th district, there is threatening and ugly dialogue. There are people shouting and all those kinds of things. Can we not have civil discourse on controversial projects in the 13th CD? So we'll just start here. What's your thought about the tenor of the dialogue that happens over proposals that people are emotional about?
Look,
in the 13th.
I
I've seen
think
it.
absolutely.
I'm just saying, as an outsider, I see it all the time, and we try to have a civil discourse. I see those things happening. So,
yeah, look, I think that
We'll give you 30 seconds,
this is you know, I've been a successful negotiator for many, many years. I've been able to negotiate with the worst employers that you can imagine. But you have to have a dialogue, right? You've got to get to, you know, the happy medium that's going to satisfy both sides. And that's what we need to do here. We need to have that discourse and discussion without the toxicity.
Go ahead, Mr. Perez.
I think negotiation is fine, but first you got to come to a consensus. If the community doesn't want it, you got to ask them why. I mean, 98% of the people in that district play lotto every day, but they don't want the casino there. 98% of the people gamble on their phones. So is gambling the issue? Or is it that you just don't want that in your area because you felt like I got an email yesterday that said that it's going to attract the bottom
my question
feeders?
really is about the tenor of the dialogue. So, Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes across the board on a lot of things, and it includes immigration and other things.
Was I done?
We are.
Did you?
I didn't have my 30 seconds,
we'll give you,
but that's okay.
ahead.
You know,
Go ahead.
I'll have the final word.
Point? You want to address that point? Go ahead.
I just even lost track because I was on a roll over here explaining to you how
Go ahead,
so many
John,
people.
we'll give you another 15 seconds.
So how many people gamble in the community?
That's
They say.
the question.
Okay. I'm going to start all over with 30 seconds.
John, just do you have something else to say about
If he
that
has
topic?
a problem with what I'm saying, wait your turn and address your turn. We're
Okay.
not in the
John,
South Bronx,
John,
man.
Thank you very much. Mr. Diaz, you can...
Can I? Is it safe?
Well, that was what the question was about
concerned
that
about
right
the
there.
tenor of the dialogue in that district.
Yeah.
It is so destructive, right? And again, it goes to things like immigration as well. The tenor of the discussion on social media and other places is not good, and it does not add anything to the situation. It makes it much harder to really get what is the real information and what's not. And unfortunately, we do have a council member who sit in the seat who does delve into that sort of rhetoric. I know that she's mentioned, immigrant dumps and things of migrant dumps and things of this nature. So yes, we need to
Thank you.
certainly tone that down for sure.
The reason that people are screaming and yelling and there's this discord is because the fix is usually in.
But you
before the
only
meeting
learned about
starts.
that just
John,
now.
John,
You only
you
learned
gotta
that.
let him
only
finish
started.
what he's
He
saying.
only learned about that now.
John, please.
What I like
John,
to do.
you got to let him finish.
Well, he didn't let me finish.
John, I'll give you more time. Relax.
This is
All right?
MO
Nobody's cheating
Fuizzi,
you.
yeah.
This is the kind of
You don't know my
dialogue
MO,
that's
brother.
not helpful.
You don't
Go
know
ahead.
my
Like I was saying, the problem with the issues is because the community usually feels that the fix is in, even with the Bally's events, even with the endorsement that the county Democratic gave to one of our candidates. She admitted they didn't interview her or any of us. So you think if there's a forum, people are not going to be frustrated or upset? So they have these forums, and it's a fix before the forum starts, and they don't listen to the community.
Thank you.
So we feel the only way it can be
Ms.
heard is by
Reets-Dupont,
shouting.
30 seconds on that,
Yeah.
and then we'll get back to the Bally's proposal.
So it's perfectly fine that people are passionate about the issue. And as it was stated, it wasn't clear what Bally's wanted to do. And they had a lot of lies in the information they provided to our community, which caused a lot of issues. And so once again, it's okay for people to be passionate, but we also need to be passionate and be able to listen, because if we can't listen to each other, we will get nowhere.
Are you in favor of the Bally's proposal?
I am not in favor of the Bally proposal. I'm not in favor of the Bally proposal because of the effect it have on our community. There's many studies out there that shows that when you bring a casino into the area, crime raises, home values drops, So those issues that comes into our community is not to the benefit of our community. And though there's talk about, job security, those jobs are not going to individual with no qualification, just like this job. Right? They're not going to put people in positions that don't have the qualification. It's entry-level position that they will receive in our community. So it's not position, you're going to be a director. No, they're not. That's the reality of it.
Thank you. We'll let you do it now. Ms. Aldebol can talk about Bally's.
Okay. Do I get a 30-second rebuttal?
Yes, you can. You get your minute 30 here. Just go to it.
Okay. As it stands now with the information that I have from attending various forums, I don't support the Bally's Casino for several reasons. One, I agree with Ms. Dupont that, there are studies that show that casinos bring, higher crime rates, which is already a problem in parts of our district. The appeal of having that project is that they have a project labor agreement that's enforceable, that will provide good jobs, will provide local hiring, apprenticeship programs. What I don't know is what the impact to the community, to the environment, to small businesses in the area, to the community at large, how much of that money is going to come into the district, what is it earmarked for? Those are questions that are still unclear, and in its current state, I could not support it.
Mr. Perez, now you have the time.
Just keep going with another question.
Okay,
Yeah,
Mr. Diaz, you can talk about the Bally's.
As we stand now, the community, I believe, has spoken. But I want to kind of take a step back, because I know people here are citing all sorts of sources and reports and different things, and you can find reports and sources to say exactly what it is that you want to say, right? It's Bronx needs economic development, right? A casino wouldn't be my first choice, but we have to kind of take a step back and look at what it could bring to the area. And again, I am not for it now. That I think the community is clearly spoken, but there are things that we want to consider. Like, I know, speaking to people in Throgs Neck who are living in a transportation desert, and they have to take 3 buses and just to get to Bay Plaza, or have to take 2 buses to get to the train to get to their job in Manhattan. As far as the, believing what, Bally says or what they're proposing, because they have proposed lots of money to lots of different organizations in that could benefit, our community, right? But it's just being able to, bring people together, have a seat at that table, do the negotiations, and in the end, if it doesn't look and work out like we wanted to for this community, then that's it. We have to be able to at least have the conversation and figure out what really is good and beneficial for this community. So.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reets-Dupont, you get the next. Did you want to add?
I just wanted to rebut something that
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Rivera said.
Go ahead, 30 seconds.
So look, Bronx County Democrats endorsed me. I believe it's because they firmly believe that I'm the most viable candidate to beat Christy Marmorato in the fall. I have the most experience. I have the most endorsements from labor and other Democratic organizations. So I'm proud of that endorsement, and I'm not gonna hide from it. They didn't get endorsed, and they're angry about it.
Did they interview you?
Mr. Rivera, you have 30 seconds.
Did they interview
Go
you,
ahead.
Shirley? Did they interview you, County?
They didn't conduct an interview of anyone here, right?
So you
They
have
made a
30
decision. How they make their
No,
decision?
they told me that they interviewed you. You were the best candidate, and you said they didn't. So either they're lying or you're lying. Somebody's lying.
Okay, well, look, whatever the case may be,
Let's
whatever
go.
they told
That
you,
was
I
my
was not.
rebuttal.
I was not.
Okay.
I wanted to
Well,
address
I'm
something.
rebutting because you're making a statement.
No, I'm not
I
saying
was
anything.
not privy to that conversation that you had with them. But what I will say is that they clearly believe that I'm the best candidate, and that's why they endorsed me.
Or that your union gave the candidates over $1 million over the last year.
Thank you.
That might have something to do with
That's
it.
also not
Reets-Dupont, let's get to an issue here. This month, the overall index crime rate in New York City fell for the 7th consecutive month, with a 3% decrease compared to the same month last year. But according to the Bronx DA's office, the Bronx still has more than its share. The Bronx represents 17% of New York City's population, but accounts for 20% of the city's violent crime. If you are elected to the city council, how would you address this?
Well, one, I will pour a lot of resources into our precincts, okay? Because our precincts are under-resourced. We don't have enough policing for our community. We have, as you stated, a rise in crime, a rise in auto crime in our district. And so in order to address those issues, we do need our police officers. We need our police officers out there. We need our community activists out there helping to address these issues. So I would definitely be pouring funding into our precincts so that they're able to do the job effectively.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aldebol. Talking about the issue of crime in the Bronx and, of course, in the 13th.
Yes, rising crime is a serious issue that can't be ignored. I've talked to many people in the district who, they feel afraid. They feel insecure. Car theft is rampant, whether they're stealing the rims off the car or breaking into your car to steal what's inside, or just outright stealing your car, breaking into people's garages. It's creating a sense of insecurity that people should be able to feel safe in their neighborhoods. I worry every time my son leaves the door that something's going to happen to him, right? It's not just about our property, it's about ourselves, and we should be able to walk down the street, walk to the subway, walk to go grocery shopping without feeling like you're gonna get hurt. So I completely agree that we have to put more resources into our police, have more patrols to prevent crimes and make people feel more secure, and also give the police the resources that they need so that they could do their job, whether it's supplying them with mental health resources so that they can do their job adequately and deal with, there are people who have mental health issues that the police have to deal with, and they don't have the tools to be able to deal with those issues. So I'm all for funding our police and giving them the resources that they need.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
I was a military police officer for 10 years in the United States Army. That's what I did. We focused on key points, key choke points, because soldiers also, they sidewind sometimes. They go out and drink, have domestic violence issues in their homes. All sorts of issues, drug issues, we have them in the Army too. Not as prevalent as it is out here. But policing is not the only issue that's out here. We still, regardless of whatever is happening throughout the Bronx, we're still a lowest density community in the Bronx. Crime is not as prevalent in the 13th Council District as much. In certain areas, I know there's pockets, there's hot pockets. What you have to do is you have to maintain the low density crime, right? Because they're not as big as shootings and stabbings that as much as it's in the South Bronx. But we need to sustain that and then gradually lower it. What we have to do is not allow it to increase. And we also have to have that presence out there. But community organizations that are out there in certain areas play a pivotal role in assisting police officers in deterring crime in different areas, because these people know those people. They know who they are. So if they see something out of whack, then they're the first ones to address it, and they're the first ones to call the NCOs from the community to respond. So there's always somebody around that knows this individual, and if they don't know him, they're watching him.
Mr. Diaz.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest job that a council member has is to address quality life issues here, for their community. And yes, we need policing. We need more police, right? We have, by landmass, one of the largest precincts in New York City. And I know that call times are not the same for every part of this district. People on City Island complain that it sometimes takes an hour for a police officer to get there, right? There's other districts that's 20 or 30 minutes, right? So yes, and it is about making sure that our police have funds, the proper funding and the resource to do this, right? But policing looks different in different places, right? I know that there are certain, black and brown areas that, in the community that when you say more policing, they take a step back because they're, sometimes are more targeted. And there are other areas where, more policing is looked at a much, a higher advantage. So yes, we have to kind of, look at, we have a budget that's, $7 billion of the NYPD. We can look at that budget and see how we can sort of maybe reallocate some of the resources necessary for this precincts here, the 45th and 49th, who desperately need the funds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera.
I think the first thing we need to do is educate our residents. Less than 5% of a community or a neighboring community commits 100% of the crime. So we don't need to assume that if somebody wears a hoodie or listens to hip hop, they're a criminal. So that's the first thing we need to dispel with some of our residents. The second thing is we need more community neighborhood programs. I was at an event and most of us were at the event and we saw the Morris Park police truck. So they have a police truck and a police van and volunteers that patrol the area. So we need more of that. We need to replicate that throughout certain neighborhoods and have the community and police have a partnership where we work together. That could be through basketball tournaments. That could be to community people going to their roll call, which is open to the public, and most people don't know that. So we need to make sure that the police view the community as partners and that the community feels the same way, and make sure that they're engaging in a non-confrontational way so they get to know the people in the community. If you know John's the basketball player from the local high school, you're not gonna feel that as threatened as if you never met him. And if you know that that's Mr. Officer Gonzalez, the way that they communicate, they will respect each other. I always tell my police officers, speak to people the way you want them to speak to you, with respect and they'll respect you. Talk to them, not at them. If we can do that, we can get along better and have a safer community, which is what everybody wants.
I said we were going to talk. We don't really have time for it. You can use your time on the next one if you'd like. Ms. Aldebol, I said we were going to talk about Just Home. The Just Home proposal to use property on the Jacoby Hospital campus to house New Yorkers with complex medical needs after they leave prison. Patients with medical needs like congestive heart failure, stage 4 cancer, and end-stage renal disease, which make placement in the city's homeless shelters unfeasible, they would be eligible for this program. Do you support this proposal?
Yeah, I support programs like Just Home that are alternatives to homelessness, because let's be honest, if these people who are very ill are released from prison, they are at risk of being homeless. We don't want people in the street, especially people who are ill, and you know. But I also understand people's concerns that these are formerly incarcerated individuals. So we need to have that discussion with the community of like what is needed so that the community can feel secure, that you know there are people who were formerly incarcerated here. But it makes sense to have a project like this on Jacoby's campus where they can have access to the health care that they need, because they're not going to get it in a shelter, and they're certainly not going to get it on the street.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perez.
Well, that's where the disconnect is, because these conversations have been happening in the community for years. Community board, civic engagement, people from the Just Homes Project did come in several times and they discussed these things, right? But their plan is in effect. I don't agree with it. Just the other day, Diana Aguadillo,
Ayala.
got assaulted crossing over from going to work and going home on Randall's Island because of a program. This guy was out with an ankle monitor. Now this girl couldn't even recognize her mother after that. And she was taking her bike because she couldn't afford, or she couldn't see a way of saving money to send her kid to private school or college. So she was e-biking back and forth. So which brings up the question about, do we really trust or do we really need these kind of facilities in our district? No, but the discussions have been going on for years on the matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diaz.
I mean, the concept obviously I think is noble, right? You want to make sure that you can provide some sort of transition for formerly incarcerated people who are sick and who probably cannot maintain themselves alone, right? But I think the biggest issue with Just Homes was the lack of communication that was taking place, with the community. From what I understand, is that the community was often told one thing, and then as time went on, the things changed, where people who they were going to allow in, that they weren't going to provide security. So those are the real issues, right? So that's why, again, when we are talking about these things that have an effect on our community, we first need to make sure that we'll all have a seat at the table, that we're all in this discussion, right? And that to make sure that if something is going to be agreed upon, right, that it takes everybody into consideration and everybody can be comfortable. Like I will always say, I will always put District 13 first, no matter what. And as far as I know, as the way it is now, Just Homes would not be a fit for that area.
Thank
Unfortunately.
you very much, Mr. Rivera.
I think it's very clear that I'm against this project, and for a very simple reason. I worked for 10 years in the South Bronx in a shelter in between two schools. I fought to get that shelter open, and they promised us that it was a working shelter for working people that were just having a hard time. Within 2 months, we had sex offenders there. We had a ramp, so they were putting wheelchairs. The city is dysfunctional. They say one thing and do another. So it's very difficult for people to believe that they're gonna have a project that's just for people. Even when they spoke about this project, at first you had to be terminally ill, this, that, and the third. Then when we read the fine print, you can have asthma and qualify. Are you kidding me? Like, we need to be very clear, and we need it in writing when we have these programs, and there needs to be penalties and things that community residents could do when they don't keep their word. Then we'll be open to it. But we're tired of not having common sense in government. We're tired of having things pulled all over our eyes and pushed down our throat. It's happened because of bad leadership in the past, and when I'm your council member, it will no longer happen.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reets-Dupont.
I do not support the program. I don't think the program is a fit for our community. And as a mother, it's very concerning to me because I have my 15-year-old daughter that's coming home, and I don't want to worry about her safety. And it's proven that, individuals who have been incarcerated return back to crime. In 3 years, 67% of those individuals return back to crime. And in this specific program, they were not very clear about what it is their intent was. They came to the table and said one thing and then presented something else. And so our community, we do not support this program, and we do not want this program in our community.
Candidates, we've come just about to the end of the program. I thought I would ask a fun question, and we'll just go right down the line. We just have
Okay.
a moment to. Favorite place to go in the 13th Council District? We'll go right down the line. You want to pick a restaurant? You want to pick
Oh
a
my
park?
goodness,
Pick whatever
so
you
many
want.
places. We have a great district with a lot of restaurants. We have City Island, Orchard
So you don't want to
Beach.
pick one out.
It's hard because there are so many great places, in our district. So many great restaurants that it's
Mr.
hard.
Perez, what do you want to say a favorite place?
I'll always say my kitchen. But there are so many different.
Are we all invited? That would be nice.
Oh, you'd have to talk to my girlfriend, my fiance now about it. But
Congrats.
there are so many different places, and we visit them often. So to pick one would be jeopardizing my welcome and her welcome
there you
at
go.
them. So
All right,
they're
Mr.
all
Diaz.
fantastic.
Mr. Diaz is on City Island.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
How's
But
it gonna choose?
that's what I love about this district because it's just so diverse in so many of its different areas, right? So you can be in one, walking through these districts, and it's like
pick
you
one. We
change.
don't wanna run
you
out
change
of
zones.
time.
So for me, because I love the fact of being able to walk my dog on the pathways of Pelham Bay Park, the largest park in New York City. I love Orchard Beach. I love that the history that it has. So if I was to choose anything, it would be that Pelham Bay Park Orchard Beach Park.
Joel?
I remember when my kids are 14 and 15, when they were 6 and 7, I used to take them to the horse stable because they used to have little pony rides. So it makes me nostalgic and think of when my kids were younger. So I love that place, and the golf course on your way to City Island also for miniature golf.
Go ahead, Ms. Reets.
Yeah, it's really, that's the difficult question.
Unfair question. All right.
I love food. And I love to eat, whether that's going to Little Yemen and having samosas, or whether that's going to Sammy's and having crab legs with my husband. I
There you go.
enjoy the richness of our district, so I love to
Okay.
eat everywhere.
Let's do closing statements. We'll give you each 45 seconds to make sure we can fit it in. And start with you, Ms. Aldebol.
So I born and raised in the Bronx. I love the Bronx. My family were able to buy a home in BronxNet when people with a working class income could still afford to buy homes. In fact, my next door neighbor worked in the garment district, and she was a member of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, and she bought her home like 60 years ago. And I feel that we have to fight. It's time to stand up and fight to get the resources that we desperately need in our district. We have to fight skyrocketing, housing costs. We have to fight, crime. We have to fight a deteriorating quality of life in our district, and we have to protect the most vulnerable in our district as well. Our seniors, our veterans,
Thank you.
and that's why
Mr.
I'm running.
Mr. Perez, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Prior to me joining the Army, prior to me enlisting, I did work for David Rosado for 4 years while he was a council member, and I did when he was a senator. From there, I became the project manager for the Bathgate Local Development Corporation. And then from there, I was part of the organization, a co-founder of the biggest, largest development the Bronx has had. So that experience led me to become very successful in the Army, going from military police to be by name requested to serve as the Army's ambassador. I had to leave the Army because I had to come back and take care of my daughter. That's the only reason. If not, I would have still been in there. But now I'm coming back into the community, been here for a while now, doing the work that needs to be done, recognizing the community for the work that I've done, and I'm here to represent the 13th, my home.
Mr. Davis.
Yes,
Mr.
absolutely.
Diaz.
Thank you again. So this is not about just one election. This campaign is not about me. It's about this community and who we are. For those who feel left behind, for those who feel ignored, for those who have been waiting at a bus stop for a bus that never shows up. It's for those who call 311 and the only thing they get back is silence. It's for people who have experienced in the high soaring rental rates and homeowners who are experiencing, higher taxes now, and the service is going down. We need a government that listens, that hears, that delivers. That is why, and you know why, that's why I'm running.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera.
We too poor to be rich. We don't qualify for the millionaire loopholes that Donald Trump and Elon Musk qualified. But then we too rich to be poor. We don't qualify for Section 8, public assistance, or any of these subsidy programs. They take half our check. We don't have anything to show for it. And there's no common sense in government. The 13th needs someone that's gonna be a general, that's gonna fight for them in City Hall, that's gonna represent hard-working Bronx residents and homeowners who has the same beliefs and cares about the same thing as them. I think the choice is obvious and clear that I'm the person to represent the 13th and take our fight to City Hall and keep our quality of life and fight for the least of these.
And Ms. Reets-Dupont, you get the final word.
Thank you. So what the 13 deserve is a leader that knows how to get the job done. We don't want just to put someone there just because, it's okay to run. We want leaders who know how to get the work done. Of anyone on this stage, I'm the most well-rounded. I have a background in education as an ESL teacher. I worked for Hilton Hospital during the height of COVID. I've worked in the city council. I've worked on the budget. I've worked on legislation. I was a member of the largest union representing thousands and thousands of legislative staffers. I'm the most qualified. I'm the only qualified individual on this stage.
Thank you very much. Candidates, I want to thank you all for a very spirited conversation. I think it's important because it shows you really care about your community. We might not agree on everything, but I know you will all agree with me that every eligible voter should vote in the primary on June 24th. For more information, visit vote.nyc, and please make sure to vote on the 24th.